cannon. Now this style of cannon isn't too different from what had been used throughout the past several centuries. Some muzzle loading smooth bore cannons. So that means we load it from the front of the gun right here, the muzzle end, and it's fairly an accurate cannon because of the lack of rifling inside of the barrel. So although this has a maximum effective range of actually doing great bodily harm if it hits you, to about a mile, about to the shores of that island out there, if any of you were to go out there, have a picnic with your family, chances are I could fire dozens of shots before hitting you. Now a far more accurate range for this cannon is about half of that distance, or half a mile. That's about to the end of the break wall out there. Now if you're out there in one of those big ferry boats you got and you're sitting still for me, and I'm an especially good, well-trained gunner, I should be able to hit you within about 3 shots. This is getting a lot better. So hopefully we're starting to understand that these cannons in no way could control the Straits of Mackinaw shipping in this area. If you want to bring a boat through here and you don't want the fort to harass you, sail around the other island. We'll never be able to touch you with our gun. These guns are put here during the American Revolution when this fort is created to protect the fort itself as well as the village down below and also our harbor a bit. So they're entirely defensive cannons. Now, these cannons never get used during the American Civil War. The first time we see any combat up here is the War of 1812. And that's also the last time we see any combat up here. So although we do get a bit more updated cannons than the ones in the War of 1812, stronger, tougher, lighter metal, come this Model 1841 cannon, this is the real last upgrade we have in our cannons up here. So this fort stays open until 1895. It's about a 50-year-old cannon by the time this fort closes. At that time, the United States artillery has breech loading cannons, so ones that are safer to load because you don't have to stand in front of the barrel. Ones that use rifling inside the barrel as well to make these accurate to well over that mile effective range we have for us here. So with one of those, you should be able to ruin your picnic a lot quicker. But the idea behind this is Fort Mackinaw isn't considered to be likely to be attacked. So the Army doesn't want to spend the money to update dozens of pieces of artillery at great cost to update a fort that's really not going to use the darn things to begin with. Fort Mackinaw at that time entirely has cannons for ceremonial purposes. So certainly we've been to things like fireworks pretty recently on the 4th of July. Well, just like we celebrate our independence with fireworks, soldiers celebrate this with cannon shots. Whether it's something like the 4th of July, or even something like the start of every workday. We fired a cannon salute on days like that, too. Things like the president's birthday, or if the president came to visit a fort, we'd fire off a salute shot. This is a pretty common occurrence, especially up here by the 1870s and 80s, because at that point, we're headquartersing a national park, so there's all sorts of important people coming. And well, today, that amounts to about all you folks, right? You're the ones that keep me and Trevor here employed, so we're going to fire a cannon salute for all of you. It's a relatively simple process. You take a leather patch, put it over your thumb, start to stall the vent in the back of the gun. So this is kind of like closing the vent on a barbecue grill. Helps any spark embers in here die down. Which is important because Trevor has to put his hands in front of the barrel to clean it out. So he's going to be trying to extract any debris from the barrel. Do you feel anything? Nope. Alright, so luckily we have no debris inside our barrel. Which could be bad news because we do have to run that charge all the way down the back. If there's anything in the way, we won't be able to successfully fire this. Now the next step is to swab this out. So he's using a swab that he dips in a bucket of water, and then he's going to run that down the barrel. So he's going to manage to coat the inside of the barrel with some water, making it more hostile to sparks or embers before he puts the powder inside. You may have heard that dull thud as he pulled it out. Well, in addition to coating the inside of the barrel with water, it also evacuates a lot of the air simply by forcing it out. So at that point, we're pretty sure there's no sparks or embers. Trevor's getting a fresh cannon charge to run down the barrel. You're going to notice that this tool looks a little bit different from our other tools. What's different about it? Yeah, it has this curve in the end. I shouldn't have to explain to you why that's a good idea once you put gunpowder inside the barrel. But this is not a tool the Army was using in the 1880s. They were using a straight ramrod. Just like our other tools, this is a little bit unsafe. There were soldiers injured, even killed, firing these peaceful salute shots here. So we don't want to repeat that. We got Trevor all trained up. We don't want to have to train someone else. Now we're going to get this cannon ready to fire. Trevor's going to take a step around the back, run a brass spike down the hole in order to rip open that bag of gunpowder. Then Trevor's going to put a friction primer inside the pin. So these are an invention of the 1840s, but they're not something that gets used widely today. So who's seen a friction primer before? Where at?
Here.
Right here? All right, good answer.
Here.
Here? Okay. So these are used throughout some historic sites. They're a very popular tool for igniting cannons during the Civil War era as an 1840s invention. You simply attach a lanyard to the end of this brass pin and you pull on the lanyard. Now that ignites a friction-sensitive chemical on the end of this pin, essentially like a match, causing an explosion of gunpowder inside this tube. It's just touching a match to gunpowder. The explosion then travels downward into the barrel and ignites the rest of the powder. Couldn't be any simpler. Now it looks like Trevor has us hooked up, so get your cameras ready, cover your ears. There's just 2 commands to fire this. They are gunner ready, fire! Well, thank you all very much for coming up and joining us.